call this meeting to order and welcome everybody to the Woodland Davis Clean Water Agency Board meeting. Do we have any changes to the agenda from the three members of the board present? Very good. Seeing none, this is an opportunity for the public to comment on any item that is not on the agenda. I don't have anybody that's indicated a desire at this point, but we would invite your hand to be raised if you have a public comment. Seeing none, we wish to welcome Mayor Pro Tem Joe Cravoza from the City of Davis, who will be replacing Mayor Don Saylor on this board. And we invite whoever is administering the oath of office to come forward, and let's make that happen.
Carly wants us to put the microphone. All right. Okay, raise your right hand. Please say aye and state your name.
I, Joe Cravoza,
Do solemnly swear
that
I will support and
defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that
I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome again, and anything you'd like to say, we'll give you that opportunity if you'd like to.
You don't know what you just did. Look, it's really a pleasure there we go. Yeah, I got a lot to learn here. There's no doubt about it. But I just say I'm very much looking forward to serving on this JPA. It's good to be actually reunited with Alan Lilly, who I had great pleasure to work with when I was on I was part of the Poudre Creek Council when we were working on the Poudre Creek water cases. And so this is a little bit of a reunion for me with water issues. I came to UC Davis in 1991, attended law school, studied with Hap Dunning, focused on natural resources and water rights issues, and then headed to Sacramento and practiced water rights law for a few years. Then came back to Davis to work at UC Davis, where I've been since 1996, but for 7 years chaired the Poudre Creek Council. And after the water rights trial, we entered a period of 4 years of negotiating out the deal that created the permanent settlement on Poudre Creek. So now kind of coming back around and being elected to City Council, all of a sudden I find myself back in the thick of water rights in Yolo County, and I look forward to working hard to develop water rights for Woodland and Davis, and I think also apply kind of a great set of environmental ethics that exist in this county that support ag preservation and wildlife and so on. So we've got a lot of aspects of all of those issues in these projects, and I look forward to being part of it. So Bill Marble, Stephen Souza, and certainly Marty Doty to come. I look forward to working with you as my colleagues, and we've certainly got a super staff here, so and all of you in the audience. So good to be here. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you and welcome. Woodland Davis Water Supply Project Update. Eric?
Good afternoon and welcome, Director Cravoza. And Lynn, could you dim some of the lights a little bit? I think it's a little more difficult to see. Oh. Thank you very much. That's a good start. You might have one light on the front one.
Oh, sure.
Is it, is that good? Okay. Yep. Because in front of you, you have a printout of the presentation and the update. And I wanted to take a few minutes really just to update you on our activities since we last met back in July and hit the highlights of what we've undertaken and accomplished. And you do have the copy in front of you. A lot of our work in the last month and a half has been associated with establishing our management systems. And I have included in front of you a copy of our safety plan and program management plan. We want to establish a culture of safety within our organization, and this is the right time to do it during the early planning phases. And as times get more critical with regard to safety hazards as we go into design and particularly construction, we want to have that embedded in everybody who works with us and for us. And so we started right from day one in establishing a safety plan, as well as our program management plan. And you have a copy of that as well in front of you. And I want to thank the efforts of West Yost in putting that together. I think they did an excellent job in assembling both of those documents. And we welcome any comments because those are both really dynamic documents, and we want to update them where it makes sense. So any thoughts anybody has, we're continually trying to update both of those documents as well. But safety to us would be the #1 priority. We've also developed a schedule, looked at the schedule and developed a detailed schedule. We looked at cost control issues and financing procedures from contracting through invoices, through payment, through documentation. We established our organization, and we've established a method for monitoring and reporting on our work. And each of you have a copy of that monthly report, which again establishes what has been accomplished over the last couple of months with regard particularly to schedule and cost, and highlights key concerns that we may have or issues that we need to address. That document will be produced. We probably will go to a quarterly report, and if you're interested in it on a continuing basis, we'd be glad to provide you that. But I just wanted to show you today in this document here what we've done with regard to organizing the management structure and how we're going to control schedule and cost.
Question, Eric?
Yes.
I gather this is probably, you have an electronic file that you'll be posting up on the web and
Yes,
available
yes.
for the public?
That'd be fine. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Other
I don't know if you want some input on the reporting sequence, but I know our plan is to go to quarterly meetings next year, and I think from my perspective, a quarterly report is fine,
Okay.
provided that you update us on any immediate changes that are substantive, which you would anyway, I
Right,
think.
absolutely. And we monitor ourselves on a monthly basis, but want to do more formally on a quarterly basis. Okay, good. Other activities that we've undertaken, we've initiated the development of an agreement for participation in the program with UC Davis, and we hope to have that completed by the end of this year. We've initiated, and I know public outreach has been an important part of what the agency has been engaged in over the last, almost since its inception, well, since a year ago, since its inception. But when I say we've initiated this formal program, it's a more aggressive program where we are actually going out and talking to a number of groups and have plans to continue that through the early part of December, to let people know that we exist and how important the project is to the two communities. We've also continued, most importantly, to address the key issues. So that's what you have been engaged in for a number of months and years, and we're continuing to do that. We believe we have made progress, and I'll touch upon that in a moment. Our team, and you probably can see that better in the handout in front of you. What I wanted to really highlight from this chart is not every individual. There's a couple of things. One is that there takes a lot of individuals to do this project. There's a lot of different levels and skills sets that are required, various disciplines that are very important in pulling together a program of this size. What I wanted to highlight is the integration of both cities' staffs with outside contractors and consultants. And the green represents your city staff personnel, and the orange our outside contractors or consultants. And this is the core team to make things happen right now through up until the detailed design phase of the work. And part of what we've done in order to, because people come from different cultures and approaches and have various knowledge of the project itself, we conducted a partnering session, and this is highlights people who were there. Pass it.
Yep.
Put it behind you. But it highlights our approach and the values that were established by the team and the mission that was developed to guide us along. And I think it did a great job of bringing together people and listening to different ideas that people had and their understanding of the objectives of the project. And we appreciate Chair Marble for attending part of that partnering session. The mission that came out of it is pretty simple and straightforward. Is to deliver the project to ensure our community has an affordable and sustainable, high-quality water supply. It comes across very simple, very few words, but there's a lot of discussion on it, and it was felt that the best way was to be direct and to demonstrate a distinct acknowledgement of what we're here to do. I mentioned the key actions, making progress on the key actions. Obtaining water rights. I know you've been hearing about this for a long time. Well, we do have a date now, Alan has assured me, for January 18th. The State Board has assured him, State Water Resources Control Board, that we will have our hearing on that date to hear the concerns of the California Sport Fishing Protection Alliance, which is the last protest that we need to address to attain our water rights permit. We do have a draft permit in hand, but it won't be issued until they've heard and resolved and considered this protest, so we're taking that very seriously.
Typically, how long after the hearing, what's the range of time that get a decision back?
First of all, I just want to give one slight correction to what Dr. Mischie said. We haven't gotten the formal notice of hearing yet, so we don't absolutely have an ironclad hearing date, but staff has tentatively said January 18. And how long it takes after that from hearing to a decision and issuing of a water right permit really varies depending on the complexity. It can be from a few months to several years. We hope in this case it'll be in the few months range. We have certainly emphasized to staff the critical importance of getting these permits for both financing and for contracting work. So we're optimistic we'll be in the few months range. That's one of the things we'll address at the hearing is the need for us to get the permit and why we need it right away.
We're also engaged in activity associated with selecting the intake site, and that would be subject of one of our topics in our closed session later today. The facility delivery method, again, it's an issue that's been addressed, and we intend to bring you our recommendations for your action at our next board meeting in October. The summer water transfers, we've talked to a few upstream water districts with regard to transfers. We've been talking to Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. We've been talking to others that are tying this into the site, the intake site. But really, no formal action or recommendations. We've not developed any at this point in time. And until some issues are resolved, we're really not going to be going out with an RFP at this time for the summer water transfers. We're continuing to do the engineering work, West Yost is, in terms of looking at the alignments, looking at water quality issues, looking at doing geotechnical work, groundwater analyses. So that work is ongoing to pin down our alignments and facility locations, which are very important because we're starting the permitting process through the 404 permit, and we need that in order to identify impacts on issues such as wetlands. And we're working closely with the Corps of Engineers on that and other resource agencies. And of course, probably one of the most important things is financing. We're working together with the financing departments of each city We've identified pretty much how much money we're going to need and when, and I intend to bring that back to you in October to define specifically how much money we need at what point in time and the steps that we think are going to be necessary to do that, because this is, again, a scheduling issue that we need to start the process and adhere to the key milestones of securing the proper financing. And then part of it, I mentioned already, is that we've started our aggressive, more proactive public outreach program. We're getting out and meeting with various organizations. And that's extremely important in terms of letting people know about the project and how important it is, and to help get support for funding. Again, our schedule that we've developed, and you're going to see this a lot, and hopefully it's not going to change much other than get more specific, but I've identified it in terms of quarters at this point in time, and I think the key elements are addressing those key issues that I just mentioned, and we hope to have most of those resolved by the end of next year. Some will be ongoing through the initial design and construction phases, because only then can we get certain permits, and that will include other easement, land acquisition activities such as right-of-way and other easements as well. Design, we anticipate starting at the end of next year or early in 2012, or in that time frame, second quarter, perhaps 2012, and moving then into construction in 2013. And the construction period would be from 2013 to 2015, with operation starting in the first quarter. I'm saying January of 2016 is our goal, and that's the bottom line goal that we have. And the near-term steps of how to do it, like I mentioned, we consider this obviously very critical, and the commitment from each city is extremely important to keep the program moving ahead and attaining our schedule. So we really need that support from the cities, and we're going outside thanks to Jacques Debray is heading up our funding and financing, and his relationship with the Water Resources Association of Yolo County is very important through the IRWMP process. And we know there's not much money out there right now, but if there is going to be ever any influx of money, we want to be prepared, and people know that we exist and are a worthy candidate for those grants or loans. And then lastly, just an update on public outreach. I mentioned we're getting a little bit more aggressive. You can see here who we've started to meet with and who we plan on meeting with, both from a legislative standpoint as well as organization standpoint, both professional, such as Water Resources Association and Aqua, as well as local community organizations. So those are some of the things that we've been engaged with, and we'll continue on, and we're getting close on a number of those key issues, but there's obviously still a lot of work to do.
Very good. You want to grab that light, Joe? If you just pop it up there.
If there's any question, I'd be glad to answer them.
And let's entertain questions from Mr. Souza or Mr. Corvosa.
I'm fine.
Okay,
Okay, good.
very good.
Oh, yes.
The Speakers Bureau presentations,
Yes.
super. Is there a list, Eric, in front of me here, or that you can provide of the groups that you plan to reach out to and the ones that you have, that maybe you could circulate to the board? Because I think we can probably all, think of other groups that ought to, get on your get in your queue.
But we'd be glad to do that, and we really want your input, as to who you think we should be seeing.
Good.
And we're willing to go back, more than one time too, so that's
Right.
important.
Because, Sunrise Rotary is fantastic in Davis, but what I've learned is there's 3 Rotary clubs, so you gotta,
Yeah,
you gotta hit
and
the circuit 3 times.
I'm relying on Kim Floyd, who's our public outreach manager, who's done a great job of getting us going, so.
Yeah, so we'll everybody will have ideas there. Good.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Along those lines, Chair, Marble, I would say, Joe, prior to the compilation of some of the organizations that Ms. Floyd was going to reach out to for a public outreach, we all had meetings with her to discuss it, and I think it would probably be very good for you to sit down and go over some of those groups that you think are important that she should be reaching out to for public information.
Good. So, yeah, you know, if that's wiser in lieu of you getting a list out of just getting me together with, is it Kim?
Yes.
Kim? Yeah.
Kim Floyd. I will
Then,
do.
yeah, have her send me an email and we'll do it that way. That's fine.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that members of the board, whenever we have an opportunity to present somewhere, that sometimes we can invite ourselves in to give a presentation to a group, and that's always appropriate, and I would just encourage it, and we can include reports here about that. I'll just mention that on October the 6th, I will be a speaker on the Woodland Davis Surface Water Project at the League of Women Voters meeting, along with Lois Wolk and others. And we'll be making a presentation there about current status of the project, as well as a few comments about climate change as it relates to our project. Also want to mention, Eric did give a presentation to the WRA earlier this week, somewhat similar to what he's done tonight with a few this afternoon with a few additional things. And I want to compliment you, Eric, for just stretching out there to get with as many folks as you can in the water industry and with the public, critical for this project. In fact, let me just mention something here. Woodland has formed a water rate advisory group that's been meeting, and they conducted, along with city staff, with our city staff at the Yolo County Fair, they conducted a survey of people that came up to the booth. And one of the questions on that survey, as I recall, was, do you know anything about the Woodland Davis Surface Water Project? And it was about 50-50. So there is a lot of lack of understanding in the community that everything we can do to correct will be helpful.
I think we should have a competition about every quarter where we randomly ask people on the streets of Davis and Woodland, you know, how many people know, and we'll see how far we can boost it up. I would say if you've got 50% of the people on the street in Woodland knowing about the JPA, you're way ahead of us. But we'll see.
Well, hopefully we had Davis at the county fair, that it wasn't just Woodland. All right. We welcome Ms. Doty here with us, and
Mr. Chairman.
we are on item 3. We have a consent agenda. Do we have anyone wishing to remove any items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're on to item 4, which is a motion authorizing the general manager to execute an agreement with Environmental Science Associates. And that's an agreement that's been transferred from the West Yost. So if you want to, is there anything you'd like to say about that?
The services that were identified in the West Yost contract have been transferred into this contract, out of the West Yost contract, for us to manage ESA directly. And we've also added about $218,000 to the contract to address environmental issues, particularly a supplemental environmental impact report associated with our Plan B option for an intake site that we would be engaged in right away.
Any questions from the board on that item?
Yes. We have a project timeline and schedule, and tasks will begin starting this month, at least that's what the timeline says.
Right.
And will be completed sometime at a hearing in June, July of 2011. If within that timeline we decide that Plan B is not the path that we want to go. What do we do with all of this new environmental work? Where can we stop any of the work? Would it even be worthwhile to stop any of the work once we start putting out a notice of preparation and begin the supplemental EIR?
Well, first of all, yes, we can stop at any time. I mean, we can terminate that service at any point in time. And in fact, from our standpoint, it would be nice if we could, because that means we have a finalized on our intake site. So that would be very positive. And the work that had been done, obviously, it's always nice to have that additional information, but it's not something that's going to be critical. If we were to stop, that means we've established our intake site.
Right.
And so that is the risk we take. If you want to call it a risk, it is a risk. If we go ahead with all that environmental work and find out we're still going to go to the Plan A site, then we've spent $218,000 for no, I hate to say not a good reason, but for not a reason appropriate to what we're trying to accomplish. So that's the risk we're taking. On the other hand, if we don't do it now and we find we can't do Plan A, then we've lost a lot of time and jeopardized our schedule of going ahead with an independent site. So we're sort of, use the old cliche, rock in a hard place. We have to do something. And we have to do it now. We have to keep moving.
I understand that very clearly. I know we have to,
Right.
and it's just another $218,000.
Right.
It is good to know, and thank you for bringing it up, that we can stop that process midstream if we need to. Do we have a motion then to approve that, the consultant services agreement?
I move approval of the consultant services agreement for EAS. Yep.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is an amendment to the West Yost agreement, task order number 4. And Eric, would you like to comment on that?
This is basically a procedural agreement. There's really no money change on the other than the deletion of the monies and the scope of work from the work associated with ESA and Kim Floyd, which was originally under their contract, or the West Yost contract. So those services and the associated cost of those services have been removed from the West Yost contract and embodied in the Kim Floyd contract, which was approved last board meeting, and the ESA contract, which was just approved.
Any questions? If not, I'll move approval of that change in the West Yost agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. And next, we have a resolution regarding revising our meeting schedule. Eric, would you like to address that?
Yes. When I first started, I know I talked with most of you individually about the concept of having quarterly meetings versus meeting every month. And I knew it was important for you to meet every month when you first started the organization, because there's a lot of policies and procedures to be established during those early part of your first year. And in looking ahead and what we're engaged in and when decisions will be necessary from you, I thought it made sense from a standpoint of the time of staff and your time of attending monthly meetings would probably not be efficient use of everybody's time, because oftentimes we'd be rehashing the same thing. And I felt that meeting on a quarterly basis would really be in all our best interest and keep you informed of what's going on. The intent is that if there are issues, and there will be issues coming up where we can't wait 3 months or 2 months, that we need to act on it rapidly in terms of approving an agreement to keep moving forth, we can always call special meetings to address those specific issues. So it won't really preclude getting things done. It won't preclude you knowing what's going on. It just means we'll be meeting less frequently. And if there's any issues that you feel are of importance, or you feel you're not getting the information, we can always call special meetings. But I think it just makes it smoother, more efficient, and it's coincident with our financial reporting in terms of tracking our quarterly costs and annual costs as well. And it's coincident when we want to establish the budget, which would be in April, and that's one of the quarterly board meetings. So the board meetings would be January, April, July, and October. And I think for a special purpose board, I think that makes the most sense. We are going to continue. We'll have our next board meeting, or we propose to have our next board meeting October 28th, and then the next one in January or December 9th. So we will continue this year on a more frequent basis, because there are things as we're all getting acclimated to various activities, and there are some key issues that we need to address. But I think once we hit the next year, I think quarterly basis would make the most sense.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Marty?
Yeah, I understand your concerns about just rehashing things, but frankly, on this particular project, I wanted to stay more in contact with it than every quarter. So I would like to know if we go to that, if there's some kind of mechanism we can have for detailed updates as to what's happening with the project. This is a lot of I'm sure it's important to all of us, but I sometimes feel like if you go quarterly, you back away from it too much, and then you're just rubber stamping whatever staff wants.
Yeah, I would be glad to meet individually just to update you on the various activities. I understand your position, and I was just throwing this out because I thought it would be more efficient for everybody's time, knowing that everybody has various pressures on their time, and still would make it for an efficient organization. But
Joe, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think I'd probably share some of Marty's sentiments, but I guess I would say that my sense is we're going to be really busy, and we're not going to be meeting once a quarter, and there's going to be all kinds of offline things that have to be handled, and if there's not, then that's really great. But I like the idea of scheduling quarterly, with everybody having it in their minds that we may be getting together once a month to review certain things that you tell us really need to be handled, and I'd rather kind of preserve space in the intervening months to kind of have these special things than kind of have things on a strict monthly calendar where we're getting together every month, but then maybe some stuff starts happening in between that we wait, or we are getting to a situation where we're meeting twice a month. So it, as a plan, this doesn't bother me. I think I would like, though, to see a commitment of a monthly report from you to the whole board here, just with what's been going on, because I do want to make sure we don't lose track in a 3-month period of time on a project that's got this level of dollars behind it, and quite frankly a tremendous amount of community interest. I think is going to increasingly develop as this goes forward, and people understand more and more the contribution that's going to be required from ratepayers in both communities. So I guess I'm comfortable with the schedule, but I'd like a commitment of a once-a-month written report, and I think an expectation that we're probably going to be getting together on an ad hoc basis when we really need to in those periods of time.
Echo the concerns, and being that we did get a monthly report, and that doesn't have to be as grandiose, but an actual what has happened during the month is, for your information piece, I think is vital to all parties. Quarterly meetings in a schedule don't preclude us from having special meetings at any time on any subject, and that's to the purview of the general manager and the chair to call that meeting, and therefore I see no reason for me to have concern with this quarterly schedule, because I know you will keep us abreast, and you and the chair will call an order, or will call for a meeting if necessary.
right, yes, well,
I think we're all in pretty much agreement then. I do know that from my 4 years on the council, when our new city manager started emailing us a weekly report on activities, it was just an email. It's not lengthy, but it has really helped me as a member of the city council to better understand what's going on. And you might consider the frequency of that kind of communication and the frequency of something like this, which again, in my view, something like this quarterly would be fine. And I don't know if everybody agrees, but I would like to see monthly or even twice a month little mini updates that would go out to the board that would save some of your time in terms of regular meetings, although I think we all understand your willingness to meet with us at any time, and we all thank you for that. But I think some regular reporting electronically would be very much appreciated, and with greater frequency.
You have a Twitter account?
No, I do.
You can tweet us each day, you know. if you like.
I'm not on Twitter. I'm not at that
Okay,
level
Facebook?
yet. Facebook.
Well, maybe Lynn Ann can do it for me.
All right. Does that give you adequate direction, Eric?
Yes.
And
Yes,
I
and I'll
guess we
get
have
back
to
to you with-
pass a resolution, so I'll make a resolution that
See,
we...
Bill,
yes.
could I don't know what the sense is here, and I hate to ask this, but was our last meeting at 3 o'clock that I came in
No.
and said in, or was it 2?
2.
Okay. If others were interested in pushing it back an hour, that would be more convenient for me. But I don't know if that's getting too sideways with tradition and so on.
Actually, tradition was at 3, and I think it was changed to 2 to accommodate Mr. Saylor, and so I have no problem putting it back at
I'm fine with it back at 3. Would have helped me today a lot.
3. 3? Sounds like 3, so we'll
Good.
incorporate that into the resolution as well. So,
Chair Marble?
yes.
I would move the resolution with the amendment of 3 o'clock as the meeting time.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, I heard no opposition, so motion carries unanimously. Very good. This is now an opportunity for the Technical Advisory Committee. I don't know if there are different matters that,
Mr. Chairman? Question?
yes.
In the staff, the agenda item also includes location. Were we going to leave that alone?
We still alternate Woodland
yes.
and Davis
Yeah, we-
council chambers. Mhm.
The technical committee doesn't have anything to report, but we are available for questions if you have any.
Okay. Do we have questions from board members for the technical committee? Seeing none, I guess we'll go to closed session, and then we return for some board member comments and adjournment.
Let's see, do we have 3B and 3C?
Consent.
They were on consent.
Oh, they were on consent. Good. Sure.
Yes.
You might want to clarify that the closed session will also consider the closed session agenda item from the special meeting notice.
But it does, and we will then adjourn to closed session and return following that closed session.